Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spore and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating this glimmered and die cut card using new glimmered sentiments and a background glimmer plate, part of YANA'S Blooming Birthday collection. This is a new glimmer plate collection for Spellbinders, and I have to say I absolutely love it. I'm using two of the new products from her release with a previously released floral die collection from an autumn release. I actually did another card with a whole bunch of these florals that I will link at the end of this video. There will be a thumbnail. You can click on it and view it if you want to see me make a whole bunch of these flowers and things. So I have my Glimmer hot foil system heating up. I laid the Glimmer plate, it's called the Skinny Stripe, down on there. I'm using some polished brass foil and then this really beautiful, excuse me, nautical cardstock from Hero Arts. Now, there was barely any overfoiling. I'm using just a sand eraser to remove a couple little areas. Look at that beautiful striped foiled background. I absolutely love this glimmer plate. I think it's so stinking versatile. So I chose the pieces from the collection that I knew I would use over and over again. And you can always bet that a little skinny sentiment strip is going to be high on my list, as well as a striped background. Both of these are just phenomenal and can be used in so many different ways with so many different products. I actually used my leftover piece of foil to glimmer two sentiments and then that darling little dot and heart strip from the little sentiment set, and I did this on some cream off Simon Says stamp cardstock. What I love is these little sentiment strips are a little bit smaller than the ones that Spellbinders has done in the past, and I absolutely am here for it. I love, love, love them. I love the little skinny die. You get all of these little sentiments and the die. I am trimming mine down, meaning I am die cutting them, lining it up with one side of the sentiment, and then I am lining it up with the other side and cutting the other end. I have mentioned this many times in the past, but the reason I like to use the die as opposed to just trimming them with a paper cutter is you get that really clean, polished edge. Let's zoom in just a little bit so you can see I've got my little sentiment strips, I've got my foiled stripe background, and off camera I die cut a bunch of these gorgeous etched dies. So these are all part of a collection that creates realistic florals. There's a new spring set too, so stay tuned a little bit later this month. I'm gonna do some spring florals, but I love these and I decided to die cut my flowers. So I'm gonna be using cream off flowers, and there's gonna be 3 layers to start with. I'm adding a little Simon Says stamp Duckling ink to the center of my flower petals. Kind of ignore the pink flower. I thought I would incorporate pink, but I ultimately opted not to. And I'm using the Spellbinders TOOL N ONE to create some score lines on each of the petals. I know this seems like a big extra step. You definitely don't have to do this. I learned this from the artist who did this collection. Gosh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Why can I not talk lately? Who did this collection for Spellbinders. And she really adds all of those extra little details. I mean, really above and beyond beautiful, realistic florals. But that way you can kind of put your tweezers in the center and fold each of the petals up. It makes a world of difference if you want dimensional florals. And I think these are gorgeous dimensional. I do want to mention here though, that if you're looking to send this through the mail, I would highly suggest probably hand delivering because it's going to add so much bulk. Hand delivering, a padded envelope, something like that. I know I sent my last card to Susan Opal actually, and I just sent it in a box because I had this little box because I didn't want it to get damaged and ruined. So it's just one of those things that I probably wouldn't do this for tons and tons of cards, but I love the results. If you are a big dimensional flower fan, I mean, imagine these on scrapbook layout. You could make these for a floral frame, home decor type things. They're just stunning. I absolutely can't say enough great things about them. I really am excited to be sharing some of the spring florals with you here coming soon as well. So you can see that it's really easy to hold it with your tweezers and then just kind of fold it up. Now I like to start assembling these right away. So we've got 3 layers, and I like to usually use them tweezers to kind of help hold it shut. By bending all of those petals, it instantly gives it the dimension without having to kind of keep fluffing the flower. If you want your leaves to have a bit of dimension, I would recommend using your Tool N One to put some little score lines for the veining down the leaves. I just did very simple here, nothing too extravagant. I used a little Simon Says Stamp Fern ink to add color to the Hero Hues pesto cardstock that I used to die cut these. And I was mentioning I'm not going to use the pink flower. I'm going to use a combination of the white and the yellow. Ultimately, I decided that I really liked those 2 colors on the navy this time, on the navy background. So just kind of keep playing around with all of these little bits and pieces. The center for my flower was die cut from Fawn Sunflower cardstock. There are 2 of these smaller pieces and then this little piece that we wrap up. My best tip for wrapping that little guy up, I will show you here in a minute. I had to throw away my foam mat that I used to use when I used my stylus tool. It got ruined on accident, and so I'm just using a couple of these embossing mats with a stylus tip to round that shape before I stick it in the center. This doesn't really work that great. I really need a foam mat, so I need to pick one of those up in my next order from Simon Says Stamp. So there's 2 of these. One of the great things I also want to mention, in case you haven't seen my other video, these dies tell you how many pieces, how many times you need to die cut each die. So this particular die with these 2 flower, or the 3 flower center pieces, these 2 pieces and the other one, that's all on one die and you die cut it once. The other 2 petals, one of them you die cut once and one of them you die cut twice. It's different for each floral set, and again, it does tell you how many times, which for me is essential in knowing how many times I need to die cut something to come up with these beautiful dimensional flowers. So I like to hold that little tab with the end of my tweezers and run a thin little line of glue along the bottom edge, and then we're just going to simply wrap it around the tip of the tweezers, and then I pull the I'm so sorry, I'm out of camera. I pull the tweezers out and I just kind of pinch it shut with my tweezers and let it dry for a little bit. And that one didn't roll up great, so I'm re-rolling it. It's because I have band-aids on my fingers too. They keep getting stuck, which is not convenient at all. We're going to leave it like that for a second, and then we'll add some glue to the center and pop that little floral center into the glue. I like to use as minimal glue as possible so that the petals all bend up. So there's only glue really in the center of all of these. I am going to let this flower dry just like this before I bend those center petals down and finish off my flower. So now I just need to grab the rest of my flowers, the rest of my leaves. I die cut the leaves 3 times, so it's all on one plate. It comes with 3 different die cut pieces. I wanted lots of greenery for this. Here are my beautiful yellow sunflower flowers. Again, I'm going to add a little sunshine Simon Says Stamp ink to the centers to deepen and darken that center. I have to say that it's dark right now, but I think as it dried, it kind of faded a lot. I would use a little bit darker color next time, maybe even going into kind of a burnt orangish color, maybe even, that would show up. This just ended up, as it dried, faded a lot. I used burnt orange for the orange pieces in the center, and that didn't show up at all as far as the inking. So I would probably use a red on that just for depth and dimension. It didn't bother me though, because these flower petals just have so much detail to them and they're gorgeous. Again, we're going to go around each flower petal, adding little score lines. I do this really fast. I don't like spend tons of time making sure they're perfect. I'm basically just trying to get those score lines down so that I can then pinch each of the flower petals to give them that dimension. Something to note, on my previous card, I think I used 3 different die collections. And then the stamp set that coordinated. So I kind of incorporated a lot of different product. In this case, yes, we've got our glimmer plates for the background, but this is one floral die set that created all 3 of these flowers and the leaves. So you can get beautiful results with just one die set. You don't have to have tons and tons of them. And something else to note, so maybe you already have some of these autumn florals from the last release. You could always incorporate some of those into these new spring ones as well. I mean, I know some are autumn flowers and some are spring flowers, but a lot of them you could use for both if you wanted to, which I think is phenomenal. We're just going to bend all of these up. I wanted to show it a couple times so you could really see the process, and then I'm just adhering them together. Not doing a very good job because of my band-aids. And let's go ahead and pinch the rest of these together. And once we have a couple of these flowers assembled, we can start putting our card together. I did go ahead and do the rest of my greenery next. So all of my greenery are the leaves that coordinate with these particular flowers, and I die cut them all from the Hero Hues Pesto cardstock. You can see I'm fiddling with that first flower now because it's completely dried. Look at the detail in the center when you fold out all those little pieces. Is that not incredible and amazing? I'm just amazed at how these flowers look and how realistic. Just layers and layers. So all of the leaves I am going to ink with the Simon Says Stamp Fern ink here in just a second. I'm going to add some score lines and veining to the center of my leaves, kind of fold those up really similar to the flower. That's going to give them depth and dimension. We'll go ahead and glue this flower together so it can be sitting and drying while we're inking up the rest of those pieces. But it's about at this point that I realized I want to do another white flower to kind of keep with that yellow and white theme. And I'm just wrapping up that second flower center and popping it in the center. I'm using some Lawn Fawn glue tube glue. You can use pretty much any kind of liquid glue you want here. You just want to make sure that the florals are really good and dry, that everything is set before you kind of try to start fluffing them. That white glue is going to dry clear, so no worries there. Just going to set it over there on my card real quick while I work on the rest of these leaves. I like to add like the veining first, and you could even go more detailed with that veining if you wanted to. We're going to do that for all the rest of the leaves. And then we'll take the fern ink and add some shading so that they're a little bit deeper and darker towards the base of each leaf. I got my little inking blender brush and my ink out here. And I did this fast. I know the assembly of the flowers, it takes a little bit of work, but it really does go fast once you kind of have your assembly line down. I did all my foiling so that I could move my Glimmer hot foil system out of the way. Then I did all my die cutting, and then I did the assembly, and then finally we're going to put it all together here in just a second. Adding in some inking, or you could even add some shading with some markers or colored pencils, is going to help in the overall finished look of your card. If you're working on a glass mat like I am, I always like to make sure I am cleaning it often so that I'm not transferring some of that darker ink maybe to like the lighter white or yellow flower petals. And then just like before, we're going to use our tweezers and bend up all of these these leaves. And then I kind of played around with them as I was bending them up. This probably won't be the finished look. I'll readjust a bit. But as I'm working, I always tend to kind of try to lay things out and see what I like. I think the more greenery you can add, the better. I think I could have even added more to this. Maybe some different leaves in addition to what I already have would have looked really pretty. Doesn't that yellow and white just pop against that navy background? Even the green. I just really loved these colors against that deep, dark navy background. You can foil in any of the colors. There are so many great foils, and I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but there is a new mini rainbow foil. I love it. I'm going to be sharing some cards with that coming soon. I am a huge, huge fan of the Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil System. I know you guys have asked me a lot too. I'm going to address this. I've addressed it a lot in my comments here on YouTube, but I've been asked a lot about the kits of the month from Spellbinders, and I am not doing them for 2021, but I am going to be sharing a lot of other Spellbinders projects throughout the year. I just am not doing the kits. I'm popping up all of my sentiments with some foam adhesive, and I love that they just fit within the lines. I think that's just, it's such a classic, clean look. And then I'm going to play around with my flowers a little bit, and I'm only adding glue right around under the center so that I can really tuck and kind of squish them up close together, cozy them up. A little bit of glue just at the base of the leaves so that they're tucked near the center and the rest is kind of floating free. I promise the glue, once it's dry, is going to be super, super secure. But this gives a much more realistic look than trying to kind of fold everything down. And when it is all dry, that's when you can really go in and you can fluff up those flowers and those leaves as much as you want to. And they're going to stay put. It is so awesome. We're just going to play around with all of this a little bit. You can see that I left my flower center and I just fluffed it out just now. And then I've got my third flower, the pieces of it drying. We're going to cozy that one in. We're going to add our little rolled up center, and we're going to let that dry while we finish our assembly, while we place this panel on a white top fold card base. In fact, I didn't fluff this one out until after the video was over and I got ready to take pictures of my card. Just wanting to make sure that that's super good and dry. I made a little mess with my glue. Now, one thing I decided to do for my card is I went in with some Nuvo crystal drops in English mustard and buttermilk. I think it's buttermilk. I know it's English mustard. Yes, it is buttermilk. So kind of a dark mustardy color yellow, and then a nice light yellow. And we're just going to add some little droplets around the card design as well. And then I am going to go ahead and just grab a little strip of the leftover foil here. I like to keep all of my little bits and pieces because it comes in so handy later on, like in the case of any of these little sentiment strips. And so I'm just going to kind of trim out a little piece with my quick trimmer. And I'm going to foil that little heart with the dots on the flap of my coordinating envelope. It's a very simple little way to coordinate my envelope to my card. Again, I would only hand deliver this, but it is going to just give it that special added little touch. And I'm waiting for my Glimmer machine to heat up. I had actually turned it off, so I'm letting it heat up. I've taped everything in place, and we will foil that onto the flap here in a minute. I'm adding those Nuvo crystal drops that I was talking about. And the center of that last flower, you can still see the glue, so I'm not going to fluff that out until later because I don't want it to fall off. And it's going to be nice and secure if you let it dry all the way. But just lots of little drops all over, and then we can let that sit and completely dry. I think my Glimmer machine is nice and hot, and we'll run that through. And when I remove it, you're going to see that we have a beautiful glimmered little flap. It just is cute, tiny little detail. I had a bit of overfoiling. I should have trimmed my foil down a little bit. So I am going to just erase away that overfoiling. Not very hard though, because it is going to take a little bit of the color off, but that's okay. I love how it turned out. I love how it coordinates. So pretty. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this foiled background and sentiment card with dimensional florals featuring Spellbinders, Glimmer plates, and etched dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring dimensional florals that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.